Hey, folks, it's Greg Trainer along with my co host, Mike Hudson, and we are back. I know Mike and I took a little hiatus over the summertime, and we each had some projects we were working on, but Accessible Hunter Podcast is back, and we're going to hit it hard this season. So, Mike, man, it's good seeing you. What's going on down in South Carolina, man?
Oh man, today, we're actually getting some rain. We haven't had much rain since we had all those hurricanes come through, that caused all the devastation in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. We've been kind of blessed with decent weather since then, but we're getting a lot of rain today, which is a positive. We just built a new pond, and so we're working on getting it filled and working on some crews with well companies and that kind of stuff. It's going to look like it's probably about 90% fishable for accessibility purposes.
Man,
So everywhere about it, just a little bit of loss on one section that's going to be tough, but the rest of it's going to be fully accessible. It's going to be awesome.
that is awesome. I seen on Facebook some of the construction work, and you had some big machines in there working on that pond, brother.
I had no idea how much work went into a dam. You think it's just dirt until you start watching them move it and they're building these casings and you talk to people. It's like anything else. You got an expert in and they're telling you all about what they're trying to do. And an older farmer was helping with us and he had me laughing because he said, when you're dealing with water, when you're dealing with elements, they're going to look for the path of least resistance. And I can bring a 200,000, $1 million piece of equipment in here, and that raindrop will figure out how to make that machine fail every time.
And when you're dealing with water, just the sheer weight of it, I mean, the volume that you're talking about, the weight pushing against your dam, that has to be engineered just so perfectly to contain that type of weight.
Greg, with the devastation of Asheville, all the storms that are going through Western North Carolina, um, it's mind blowing. I was trained in rapid water rescue as a law enforcement officer. We had a lot of rivers and stuff where I patrolled. But I'm gonna tell you, it doesn't take a whole lot of water to take your feet out from under you. But the amount of just sheer pressure and power that is behind water is astronomical, man. But what those folks were facing when we were looking at, you mentioned the machinery is the only reason I bring this up. I'm looking at 40 and 80,000 pounds of equipment that he brought in, and some of his construction crew lost their machinery. The river just took it. How do you pick up a 40,000 pound piece of machinery and toss it? It's we do not give credit to Mother Nature that she deserves sometimes.
And talking about the storms that came through there, Mike, I know that, the area was just devastated. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you made out with the storms? And I know you're always prepared to the most that you can be, but can you tell people about, people with disabilities and major storms like that?
Man, look, this is one of those things. This is one of those 1,000 year storms. Nobody expected it to be the way it was. I've lived all over this world and been through all kind of hurricanes and earthquakes and you name it. We had tornadoes and everything that was just rip roaring through the South that we get on a small scale, but nothing like that. We had tornadic activity here and we lost, I don't know, they took 10 dump trucks of trees just off the backside of our property.
Oh,
I mean, you try to not make light of it, but at the same token, not overemphasize the devastation because we were blessed that we made it through as good as we did. But we were without power for 7 days, and where do you charge your chair if you use a Hoyer lift? How do you get in and out of the bed? How do you keep yourself cool or warm or, all of those things? So, man, generators. Dude, I'm gonna tell you, our generator was a lifesaver because we shifted all of our perishables into a freezer and a fridge outside, and then ran our generators during the day when it was so hot to keep everything cool. And then at night we would, just keep everything shut. I had some external batteries that we bought that we could build up power, solar power that we could charge cell phones and that kind of stuff. Being prepared as best we can is essential, but especially for people, with disabilities. Having a generator, I'm telling everybody now, get one.
Yeah.
Get one, have one on deck, get a solar generator. Go online, look at Amazon. They got these battery banks that you can buy for 20 or 30 bucks that are solar banks. They're great for keeping your cell phone charged for a day or two. Anything that you can do for creature comforts, just so you can have something to get in touch with someone, man, it's essential. It's
And
essential.
and during that storm, I mean, I tried to, check in on you and touch base with you, and having the cell phone, active, and that really allowed you to communicate with your family and friends. But you had some really good neighbors around you too that you guys came together, right?
Man, let me tell you, you don't know how good you got it until you are without everything. And literally, we had no power, no cell service, very little cell service, because the towers and everything were down for literally 7 days. Um, and so all of our neighbors were reaching out to us because me and my wife have solar generator, so we had some solar power here. And then we were able to keep, like, one of our neighbors, she's a diabetic. We were able to keep all her insulin and stuff in the fridge for her. And then all of a sudden, we had neighbors coming over. They were losing all their food in their freezer. So they were like, hey, we'll cook it. We'll all get together and cook it and make sure we take care of each other. So it wasn't a loss.
Hmm.
And then, that's one of the things too. We need to know our people, know how to get in touch with folks around you, know where to go if you have power outages or you have a need. The Marine Corps, we're really good about making sure we had first aid kits and all that kind of stuff handy. But when you throw a disability in it, man, that's a big monkey wrench.
Yes, sir.
You got a power chair and all that. Where do you charge it?
Yep.
If no one has power.
Right. And
And so you need to have a way.
and for a lot of people that don't realize it, Mike and I are quadriplegics in higher end power chairs, but we need to do pressure relief every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes. We go back and get pressure off our bottoms. Unfortunately, Mike and I are both dealing with pressure wounds. And if we don't have power to our chair and we're unable to do pressure relief, it can very quickly become a life-threatening issue. I mean, we're already dealing with the pressure wounds and we don't need them to get any worse. So when we talk about charging your power chair, it's not just an issue of being up and independent. It's life-saving.
We're only a few minutes away from being knocked back to the dark ages when you really think about it. Everybody automatically assumes when you flip a light switch on, we're going to have power. And, if the power grid really goes down for any external issues and for an extremely amount of time, you got to have a backup plan.
Absolutely.
And, it's not always going to be the easiest or best way. We were boiling water to take baths, but there's a way. We had propane and all of that stuff, and man, it puts things into a new perspective
Mhm.
when you start looking at all the things that we are beyond blessed with, but then we take for granted so much that we all have power all the time and that Hoyer lift to work all the time. And when you get in your vehicle, the lift door is going to open all the time. That's just not the reality of disability world.
And you're talking, about vehicles and things. Our backup plan is always to evacuate, but if we can shelter in place, we have all the things that we need, as you say, the Hoyer lift, all that kind of stuff. But the roads were so bad, the devastation was so bad that evacuation was pretty much out of the question for a lot of people around your area. So sometimes you have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C.
Hey, and if D comes around, you better be ready to duck and dodge, man. You know,
That's
you
right, brother. That's
you
right.
got to be ready to go. But how are you guys doing in Pennsylvania? Because I know some of the storms headed up your way as well. So,
We actually made out pretty well. We didn't have any damage or anything here. And then after the storms, we've actually had a drought situation here in PA where they had a burning ban on in effect. But thank God we're getting a little bit of rain today. Um, it's November 14th. We haven't had any snow. It's been in the 60s and even 70s. So we're having a pretty mild fall, and we're getting a little much needed rain like you. So must be coming all the way up the coast this week.
Yeah, man, I think the whole Eastern Seaboard has been seeing that. It's kind of it's nice. I know as quads, man, we get cold pretty easy. But this morning I think we were in the 40s, and it's supposed to get 50s or 60s
Yep.
today. So mild, but at the same time, 40 is chilly. Um, yeah, I'm looking for a little heater at 40 degrees. But you know, it could be a lot worse. Could be a lot worse. So.
I'll take this mild weather. I was laughing. Beth and I actually went hunting, bow hunting on election day, and I said to her, "This is the first time I can ever remember hunting in a t-shirt the first week in November because usually I've got the Mr. Buddy heater fired up,
Right.
huddling in a ground blind trying to stay warm. There I was hunting in a black t-shirt, and we had deer moving around us. I didn't think they would in the heat, but I think it was 74 degrees that first week in November. So I have been getting back to doing a little bit of hunting. I've been seeing some deer bow hunting. Got some smaller bucks on camera really close coming into the ground blind, but nothing I wanted to take this year. Have you been able to get out and do any hunting, Mike?
Man, what was funny is right where I have an elevated deer stand, we had put in some work clearing out some shooting lanes and doing some stuff. We had literally like 8 oak trees go down all the way around it. I've got a 20-foot ramp that leads up to it, and trees fell every which way except on the ramp.
Wow.
So nothing fell directly on it, but we couldn't get to it until we got some heavy equipment in there because these are all giant oak trees. So
True.
we cleared all that out. But funny enough, yes, we're getting in the woods. Um, but man, let me tell you a quick story that coincides with that. Things we don't think about. When we had all those trees and all that weather come through, without power, we were sleeping at night with our windows open, and all of the animals. We take for granted the where the animals are going to go, and their bedding situations were all destroyed when we lost that many trees. And so what ended up happening is there was a one of our neighbors has a den, a coyote den on his property. Well, it was washed out because all the water and everything we had come through the creeks and the rivers. And so those coyotes were actively hunting. And one night we were sleeping with our windows up, and those jokers came through our front yard and all the way across our front porch.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, my wife jumps up, slams the window shut. She's like, "What is that? I hear it yelling outside." I said, "Babe, it's a coyote. No big deal." But our little dog, he wasn't about that.
Oh man, I I've got kind of a similar story real quick about coyotes. We were hunting out in Illinois one time, Beth and I, and we're bow hunting about I don't know half mile from the van, and we hunt it till complete dark. And I unload my crossbow, shoot it into the ground, and we hear one coyote go off, and I looked at my wife and said, That's kind of neat." And then three or four more coyotes start going off, and they were very, very close. And I
Yeah.
looked at her, and her eyes were big, and she looked at me, and my eyes were big, and we still had about a half mile to roll back to the van in the dark, and we were crossbow hunting. So when one coyote howls, it might sound pretty cool, but when a couple of them go off, it can scare you a little bit. So I can understand them running across your front lawn now that your wife was a little nervous.
It's a whole nother thing. It's funny enough. I was listening to some other guys on a podcast talk about, I know prior to your injury and my injury, I used to walk into the woods a good long ways and, have hunted and camped all over the place. Anybody that's ever hunted or continues to hunt that treks into the woods at all, they've all got spooky stories. When you're going in the dark, you jump a rabbit or you jump a deer that's bedded down or knock a turkey off a roost, man, that right there will get your heart clicking pretty quick.
Oh,
But a pack of coyotes, coming in because man, they are on top of it
They are, and when they start howling, they get your attention pretty quick. And
pretty
I
quick.
I know they'd probably never do anything, but we had a long way to go, and we just had our crossbow, and I had it unloaded. So, we were just walking back. She was walking beside my track chair, and uh, it was funny. Whenever we got to the van, we were relieved. I mean, I shouldn't say we were really scared, but we were aware, and we went a little quicker back to the van than we went out. That's for sure.
It's one of those things you figure out real quick where you sit on the food chain when you got wild animals that are actively talking and actively seeking. And I had a lady, she was talking about that very thing with these storms because unfortunately one of our neighbors lost her cat, and I'm assuming it's to coyotes.
Boy,
But I told her, I said, listen, there's no malice, and that I'm not saying it to sound like a callous person because I would have been ticked off. It would have been my dog. If we have domestic animals, of course, those are our pets. But those animals are just trying to survive like us.
right.
There's no malice in it. Um, but there's no easy way to say that to somebody that's mourning.
Oh, absolutely. The loss of a pet is devastating. You've gone through that. I've gone through that. Anyone that has an animal, a pet, and you have it for any length of time, but especially a long term pet, they're a member of the family.
Absolutely.
I've never cried so hard in my life is when we've had to put dogs down in the past, and there's no shame in that. I'm definitely an animal lover. I love my dogs, and as hunters, we love wildlife. I mean, we don't take taking a life lightly at all. It's part of the process, part of the nature process. But we can absolutely sympathize with somebody that loses an animal.
Yeah. I mean, it's par for the course, but at the same token, it doesn't make it any easier.
That's right. That's right. Well, Mike, what do you got going on here in the next month or so? You got any plans besides getting your pond going? Is that still a big process? It'll take a long time to get it filled, or how does that work?
It's a work in progress. So right now, what it is, pond's completely finished. We're waiting on a well crew to come in, so we're gonna tap a new well. That way, we can keep the water levels as high as we need them to be. Keep fresh water in. We're looking at two aerators. That way, we're keeping it aerated good, good fresh fish, good fresh oxygen. If we can get enough water in it before spring, then we should be able to stock it by spring. And then we'll be able to fish it this year. But it will be, of course, just catch and release,
Right.
very small fish. We're working with DNR and some biologists here, and all they're doing is now waiting on us to try to, it's one of those 10 steps forward, 10 steps back kind of deal. I reached out to a friend of ours that does peering and builds piers. And so I said, hey, can you come out and help me figure out where's the best place to put an accessible pier? He said, do you want it to float? I said, absolutely not, because we don't know if we'll have two wheelchair guys on there or 10 wheelchair guys. Manual wheelchairs, no problem. Power chairs, 300 pounds empty.
Right.
I said, no, I want this thing as sturdy can be, and I don't want it to float.
Yep.
If somebody wants to get in the water, that's fine. But I don't want anybody accidentally going in the water.
Absolutely. People do not realize the weight of a power chair. A lot of times I'll be out, trying to get into a place, and somebody will say, well, we'll just pick you up over that one step and get you in there. Like, buddy, I'm 500 pounds in this wheelchair. There's no handles, nothing to pick up on this chair safely. And it's a lot heavier than people realize with the two car batteries in it and everything else.
That's one of the things that we're trying to put in place is, we're doing CAD drawings and, everybody thinks it's a quick fix just to dig a hole and put some water in it. And that's not the case when you're trying to do it the right way and make sure that accessibility comes to fruition. Plus cost effectiveness, you want to do the right thing the right way the first time.
Yes, sir.
We want to put in piers and pylons that are going to be there from now on. I don't want to, God forbid anything happen to me. But years from now, I want that pier to be just as sturdy and strong 20 years from now. Um,
That's right.
so we can get things established. And we want to leave as small a footprint as we can that we ever came in and changed anything.
Mhm.
We really want to make sure this stays a green zone. But conservation's huge for us. We want to make sure that with so much encroachment, all of our neighbors have been super excited that we're putting this small pond in. I mean, it's nothing huge, 3/4 of an acre. Um, but here's the kicker. Now there's fresh water. There's another water source for animals, ducks that
Yep.
are migrating can come through. And it's just one of those things with so much development around us that that encroachment will really, I think it's going to be beneficial for all the animals around.
Oh, absolutely. You're changing the ecology for the better, as you said, providing a water source, a fresh water source. That benefits so many different species, Mike. And also, you're changing the landscape for generations. You're giving a place, for young kids in the future to be able to come and fish, people with disabilities, families. You're changing the landscape for the better, and that's going to be generational. I always like to say, planting trees, we don't plant them for us. We plant them for the next generation for it to bear fruit, that kind of thing. And man, you're always on top of it, trying to better your community. So I'm glad to know you and glad to hear your progress down there, brother.
Man, it's been a team effort. We've had a lot of people really donate. We were doing another push. Right now, we had a guy come in and say he would match dollar for dollar up to $35,000 for accessibility in a pond. And being a 501(c)(3), we are tax deductible. So anybody that made donations, again, like I said, he's willing to match it. It's not about us. It's not about really giving for me. It's about changing our communities and being able to invite more and more people. Um, Greg, I'll tell you what's funny, man. I know me and you've been hurt a long time. And people listening to this podcast, a lot of them know us personally. Some of them don't. But here's the biggest thing about it. The disability community is a small community. And unfortunately, there are people getting hurt today that will be in our community. Um, I had a lady outreach to me or reach out to me and say, can you give me a call? Had a quick question. And it all comes back to stuff me and you have carried in this podcast for the last 4 or 5 years. Young man, 25 years old, going up into a tree, fell out of a deer stand, broke his back. His family's trying to figure out what to do with him. Within 2 days, I said, absolutely get him to Shepherd Center.
Yep.
He's in Shepherd Center now. He's going to be they're looking at maybe a T1-2 injury. Um, but I told him, by all means, get him there. It's going to be the best thing for him. Well, his passion's getting back out hunting and fishing. Let's get him through rehab, figure out how to get up, get dressed, how to get back to living and adjusting to this new life. Once he does that, we will get him back outdoors 100%. But
Absolutely.
but everything we're doing, brother, is about advocacy. The pond's not just about putting water in there. You hit the nail on the head. It is about trying to change mindsets and generational. And I offer people opportunity to partner with us, partner with other groups, local groups, everything you can to make it accessible. It's not about asking for a handout. It's asking for a hand up. If we can make those things just a little bit more accessible, we get more and more people involved. Then we can involve the entire family dynamic. You know, I'm not that old a guy. I'm getting older with more gray hair. But we see it, and we used to see it a lot. It used to be a norm. You would have a family with a grandfather in tow that was in wheelchair. He was in there for pictures only, really. No disrespect to anybody, but he really wasn't involved in a whole lot of the stuff. We want to change that demographic and that mindset. We want the grandfather and everybody that's in a chair from here, there, and anywhere to be able to get out there and fish, hunt, swim, whatever. We just want
Exactly.
to, as best we can, to make that a possibility.
Well, we always like to say, Mike, no matter how you get there, get there. And whether you're in a chair, you're using a walker, you're using a scooter, using a cane, or just walking slow, being part of the outdoors and being able to share that with family and friends. That's why you and I have been advocating so hard for so many years. It's because we love it. We love our families. We love our friends. And we want to participate.
It gets back down to the same thing. I hashtag a lot. And I always, in whatever I'm doing, would just keep pushing.
That's right.
All we have to do is just push a little bit more. We'll get a little bit further. And you never know when that rainstorm's going to break and the sun's going to come through. Just keep pushing forward a little bit more, and we'll get there. And I know I'm getting back on the soapbox. It's been a while since you and I've got to do some of these. But Greg, it comes back to the same thing me and you have said over and over, my friend. We can't do anything to change somebody's injury. We just hope to change somebody's mindset. Do not give me any sympathy for being in a chair. Don't give me sympathy for anything. I want your respect, but I want to earn it. But here's the kicker. I just want to get back out and live. I
Yes,
just
sir.
want people to get back out and enjoy life for what it is. And like I tried to explain to this young man's parents, right now, you guys are in the darkest stages. Trust me, life can be very beautiful if you allow it to be. It's going to be different. It's going to look different. It's going to smell different. But here's the kicker, it can be just as good or better than the trajectory that you were on. It's all about our mindsets. But
Absolutely. Well, folks, we know that we went a little long today, but Mike and I haven't talked for a while. We're getting back on track, and follow along, like us on Facebook, and we'll put some links in if you're interested in donating to Mike's Pond. And we appreciate you listening. We appreciate having the opportunity to talk with everyone. Mike, you want to send us out?
man, let me tell you, anybody that keeps up, make sure you follow Accessible Hunter Podcast. Keep up with Greg Trainer. Man, just the Accessible Hunter himself. This guy is always reaching out to so many people. He is beyond a friend to me. He's been a great mentor and an advocate, just a wealth of knowledge. I always enjoy his opportunities to be able to partner with him. We've been doing this for a while now, and we're getting to be old hats at advocacy and paralysis. But it's always a great opportunity to do this podcast together and introduce other companies that are getting people out. If you guys get a chance, like us on Facebook, share us around, but reach out to Greg, man. He's been a good friend and a good mentor. But I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, brother. Take care, guys. We'll talk with you again soon.